Good.
Can I tell a story?
Yes.
Yeah.
This one's fairly recent, but it'll have meaning to my siblings. When Marilyn and I first moved from Florida up to North Carolina, we had been in the house for a while and decided we needed to put carpet in the living room because what we had wasn't working out. So we went to a carpet store up in up in Sanford. And it's a big place called the Factory Outlet, I think, or something like that, for carpet. A young lady came up to wait on us. And she introduced herself and asked where we were from. And I said, well, we're now in Cameron, but we're moving up from Largo, Florida. She said, oh, really? My mother lives in Largo. And we chatted about that a little bit, and that was kind of strange. You talk about how small the world is. She said, but where were you from before that? And I said, well, we lived a lot in Massachusetts. In fact, I was born in Massachusetts. And she said, oh, where? I said, Palmer, Massachusetts. Really? She said. My husband was born in Palmer, Massachusetts. His name was Richard Miller.
Oh.
And she had married the son of the Richard Miller we grew up with that lived just down the hill near the Dittos.
Aren't they the ones that took care of Paul when he was born?
Beverly, I think, was Beverly Miller.
Because we all had whooping cough, and and when Paul was born, they snatched him away and took him down the road.
So in the end, we did get to meet her husband's parents, Richard that we knew, wintered in Florida. They came back and stopped to see them, and we went out, we had dinner, and got to see him again. Haven't seen him since, but to me that was the most bizarre kind of a meeting. And we now see Chris now and then, Chris Miller. She's good to see her now and then. Anyway, small world, eh?
Yeah.
While you're up there, talk about Daddy and your motorcycle.
Oh, yeah. Turn up the light a little.
I just,
I don't know how red, I think.
I don't know how old I was. I guess I was still in high school. It must have been.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Perhaps a sophomore or a junior. I got a hold of a Whizzer motorbike. It was essentially a bicycle with big wheels, but in the space frame there's a motor and a V-belt drive that would drive the rear wheels.
Just hold it up.
Thing like that. So I had got this thing going and it was working pretty well, and I drove it around town, just wherever I wanted to go. And I left it home one day and told Dad, don't you touch this thing. And I went off to do whatever it was I needed to do. Well, that didn't work. He tried it. And some of the repairs that I had made on it, I think the throttle worked the wrong way. And I don't remember how the brakes worked. But anyway, he took it down the street and he couldn't control it and went off the end through somebody's hedge, and he was beat up a little bit. He had some cuts and bruises and whatever. And he never rode it again, I don't think.
And when Alan came home and found out about it, I told you, Daddy, not to ride that.
And that happened just at the beginning of our vacation.
Yes, we were going fishing.
They had the camping trip set up for a week going through New York State.
Oh, it's like there.
And Dad went off and did this, and he came back, his head's all bandaged up with the straight. And, we're still going to take that trip. I gave him a little rest, but we went on that trip. And
was that one of your fishing trips?
One of the fishing trips.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was the first trip.
Oh, no, we had been fishing many times before.
All right, it was just one of the routine ones coming in Europe.
I have memories of you guys and boats, and one of them is, I think, in Maine.
Yeah.
When you went around an island.
Yeah,
The three of us.
but we never got a boat with a motor. We always we rented boats, but we never had a motor. We always had oars. We only believed in oars. You can control an oar, but you cannot necessarily control a gas-powered motor.
Mainly it was cheaper.
Yeah, it was cheap. So going back a little ways, that we would frequently go up to the Adirondack Mountains, camp in a tent in one of the state campsites on a lake, rent a boat, go out to the middle of the lake, put our fishing, put our hook in the water or whatever, and catch fish, and we caught
Perch.
fantastic fish. They were called perch. And they gently came up to the surface and hopped in the boat. They were real sports fish. But we ate them at dinner or breakfast. We had a good time. Now, we went up to Maine at a very small island and stayed at this small island. And went out fishing, as was our tradition, in the rowboat. And we fished for a while, and Dad thought about it for a while, and he says, I think it would be fun if we just rowed around this island, rowed the boat around this island.
We're about halfway around anyhow.
Yeah, we were halfway, because we went up and we tried different fishing spots. And even an island that's 1 mile around is going to be a lot. 1 mile wide is going to be around 6 miles if you go around the
Circumference.
Yeah, circumference. And we got about halfway around the island, and now we're faced with the Atlantic Ocean, and there was a stiff breeze coming in from the east and carrying big waves, and we were doing pretty well. I thought we were fine, But I was about 16 at the time, I think. I had quite a bit of experience rowing, and so I was rowing fine. We were taking turns. Gordon rowed, I rowed, Ford, whatever rowed. And Dad took turns, and then after a while, Dad got very concerned with the state of the ocean and everything, that he wouldn't let us row anymore. So by the time we got back, he was so exhausted, and he was like white as a sheet. He was very concerned about our safety.
Well, because those waves were aiming us in toward the rocks along that whole shore.
Oh, yeah.
This was Little Cranberry Island.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to Zoe's dad, who knew the area, they had a home in the
Farmer.
that area, right nearby there. And he had a boat, and I said, as we came back in through this little inlet between Little Cranberry Island and Big Cranberry, or whatever's next door to it.
That's right.
That there was
Cranberry.
a lot of rocks in that area, and we had to, one of us would stand up front and say which way to pull. To get
Yes,
around
that's
them.
right, yeah.
And he said, yeah, it's real shallow there. And when we were up there later on, we stayed up, visited Zoe and her parents, went out to Little Cranberry Island, and stood along the docks where we used to see the lobster all in their little cages, and happy lobsters. And then I could pick out which house the Olanders were in when we went up and visited with them one time and played on that little organ in their room when I must have been about 10. And went to the little museum that they had. In that museum, there was a little pedal organ, and I think it was probably out of the rectory from where they were staying. That's when I found out that somebody on the island was selling a house. His name was either John Travolta, and Ali Shee, or
Kelly
whatever her name
Preston.
is. One of the big name actors and actresses had their homes all around this place.
Oh.
There was that little town in the middle, but all the estates around the sides were big name people. There was a whole string of